Hello, and thank you for joining not only the first ever registered installers live stream, but also the first live stream that I've ever done. So if I come across a little bit nervous or a bit shaky, then you'll know why, so go easy on me. So why are you here? Well, you're here because we're looking for registered installers. There's a lot of demand now for skirting heating systems, and we're trying to address that demand by increasing our national network. So I'm Ethan Wadsworth. I am the Sales and Marketing Director for Discreet Heat. I've been part of Discreet Heat for 12 years now, officially. And I started off on the tools, so I know exactly where the product started and where it's ended up, and I've played a fairly big role in the development of the system. And because of that experience, I end up getting to do all the live streams. So I'm going to just give you a quick run through the actual business and the product. So we're Discreet Heat, and the product is called ThermaSkirt. ThermaSkirt is a form of skirting board heating, and a lot of people think about skirting board heating like the stuff from the olden days, but we've got two systems effectively. We've got ThermaSkirt H2O, that's a wet system, and we've got ThermaSkirt E, that's our electric system. Now, if we can take you all back to the beginning of skirting heating, older systems looked a bit like this and a bit like this, and a lot of the time when customers mention skirting board heating, their plumber goes, oh my god, yeah, I've ripped loads of that stuff out. Well, what they've generally ripped out is this kind of thing. And a lot of this was fitted in the 50s and 60s. And I don't think that this is a skirting board radiator. This is like a radiator skirting board. So it's big, it's got grills on it, and it's got a big steel case on the outside. Our product is very, very different to that. Our product is made out of aluminium. It's extruded in long 6-meter lengths. It's only 20 millimeters deep. So it looks just like an ordinary domestic skirting board, and that's the differentiator, because once it's installed, you couldn't necessarily tell that you've got skirting board heating fitted. And that is why the market sort of opened up. Now, way back when the business was first started, right before the recession, perfect time to start a company, right before the recession, we sort of came to public consciousness initially on Dragon's Den. So I will actually just show you a quick clip of how everything happened, how everything went down on Dragon's Den.
Martin's last hope of securing the cash injection now rests with Duncan Bannatyne, and the two have already locked horns in the den.
Okay, Martin, to solve all the problems of the skirting board, why don't you just get two pieces of oval piping like this, stick them on the wall, and then join and push the skirting board on top.
What sort of skirting board on top? Aluminium?
MDF.
Well, MDF would not radiate the heat, would it? It has to be a metal surface to actually radiate the heat. And who makes oval pipes apart from us?
Well, you make oval pipes, so I've suggested why don't you, who makes oval pipe, stick the oval pipes on the wall,
right,
and then put the skirting board on top of the pipes.
So now I've got
why
to
attach them to this?
As soon as you join two substances together, that's where you get losses. So it's an integral part of the radiating surface. And I think it'd be more complicated to install to put two pipes on the wall and then hope to clip a fascia on the front of it. I mean, it's an idea, but I won't be exploring it.
Well, I'm still exploring the business in this, Martin. Are you hoping I'm going to say I'm out?
I hope not. I think you can bring something to the party. I certainly hope you can.
Thank you. That's because I'm the cleverest dragon, isn't it?
Quite possibly. As you're the only one left in, yes.
I'm clever enough to know that this is not a business proposition.
Really? Okay.
Really, it's not a great investment. It doesn't work. And so for that reason, Martin, I'm out.
Okay, I take it back. You're not the cleverest dragon. Yeah, cheers. I appreciate your time, Nathan.
Good luck.
Thank you, James.
Martin leaves the den with a good quip, but no cash.
A good guy, and I like the product. He's a guy you could work with.
Yeah, yes.
Maybe too clever for my liking.
There you go, Duncan Bannatyne suggesting that we make a heating system out of wood. That's why he's not on an R&D team, I can tell you that. So what's happened since then? So since then, the product has continued to expand across markets. Now, back when we went on Dragon's Den, the product was only really sold into the domestic market. And it has grown and grown. So now we do a lot of work in healthcare as well. We do a lot of care homes, assisted living, and of course, hospital work. We've gone into leisure, so hotels and lodges and caravans, and we do a lot of education, be that student accommodation or classroom accommodation. And there's some of the bigger names at the top there of some of the clients that we work with. Now, in total, there's 65,000 ThermaSkirt systems installed in the UK, and you might have been in a room with a ThermaSkirt system installed and not even noticed, but then again, that is kind of the idea. Where we feel like we sit is, we feel like we sit as the sweet spot between radiators and underfloor heating. So obviously there's certain advantages of radiators and there's certain advantages of underfloor heating, and we feel like the skirting heating sits smack bang in the middle of them. Now, one thing that skirting heating won't do, obviously, is it won't make your tiles warm, like underfloor heating. And not everyone can install it, like radiators. So we aren't covering all bases, admittedly, but we are getting there. One of the things that the skirting heating does provide, which other heating systems don't, is free pre-painted skirting boards. And because it's aluminium and it's powder coated, those skirting boards are incredibly durable. And what do I mean when I say they're incredibly durable? Well, they are designed to withstand some significant impacts. I'll just show you what kind of abuse the skirting can deal with.
Fast and controllable response time reduce the risk of challenging or violent behaviour due to over or underheating.
So yeah, it can take a serious beating. And one of the questions we get asked a lot is, what's the system going to look like after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? How's it going to fare? And because it's powder coated, it's not exposed to UV, it's indoors. So as long as you hoover the dust off and give it a wipe down, it will look as you left it. So as you can see from the video, it is a radiant heater. The water or the heating elements heat up the aluminium profile, and then that then radiates heat into the room. As you know, radiators are called radiators, but they are actually convectors. Skirting heating is not a convection system, it is a true infrared radiant heating system, like radiant panels and like underfloor heating. In terms of how you get more heat out of it, we have different sized skirtings. So we'll have the 2-pipe profile and the 3-pipe profile. If it's electric, it's 2 cable and 3 cable. Now they're just a simple square edge profile, but obviously the 3-pipe has 50% more heat output than the 2-pipe. If you want something a bit more decorative, we currently do a torus profile and an ovalo profile. And later on in the year, we are planning to bring out a lamb's tongue and an OG. I'll be honest with you, the vast majority of systems out there are square edge BM profile. So how does it go together? Well, I will show you. A bit like a Meccano kit, there is a finite number of components that make up the system. So everything that you could need is in these 2 trays. Those trays for the wet system contain all of the components that we make. So ultimately, you can fit any ThermaSkirt system with just these components. Okay, as a standard, you've got the elbow connector. That is the most frequently used component. That just connects one piece of skirting to the next. You have your oval to 15, so that's oval on one side and 15mm on the other. You've got your TRV valve. That's how you control the flow of water thermostatically. And your lock shield, that's how you balance it against all the other ThermaSkirt systems or radiators in the room. Now, all of these components clip together like Meccano. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that you actually have to put pipe on the wall first and then clip an aluminium fascia onto the pipe. You don't. The pipe and the profile is all extruded as one piece. So what that means is it means that you don't get any losses between the water and the profile. Because it's oval, and a lot of people say, why the hell did you make it oval? Well, you get a very, very flat profile, you get a very, very slim profile, but you get a very, very high flow rate. So this oval is the equivalent of an 18mm circle. What the oval also does, and a lot of people don't realise this, but the oval actually creates turbulence in the water. So in a circular pipe, when you're trying to get heat out of it, you get this bullseye effect where the hottest water travels straight down the middle. Because the oval pipe creates turbulence, that water is constantly being circulated, so you get the maximum amount of heat out of the water. In terms of how it goes together, this is one of those live moments. Let's hope it doesn't go wrong. But the components all clip in place like that. And it's all straight cuts. There's no miters. I feel like one of those guys we should have that little microphone on now. These corner connections are then concealed with preformed corners. And they look like that. You can see when they're on, they are virtually invisible. Up close, you can make them out, but as you would see a normal skirting board, they are very, very, very hard to spot. The top edge of the profile is sealed to the wall with this flexible gasket, and that means that you don't need to use any silicone or caulking or anything like that to actually seal it against the wall. And that's got a very, very deep lip on it, so it will make a seal against even a very uneven wall, as you can see against my finger there. So in terms of how it goes together, it's very, very straightforward. I'm not going to go into massive detail now because we've got a load of videos on the coming out with that level of detail, and plus the electricians are probably bored by now. So in terms of making the connections, first fix is very similar to a radiator. You can plumb it back straight onto standard central heating system. So 22mm branched off in 15mm connecting to the skirting heating systems in each room. Same for renewables. You could have a heat pump into your thermal store and the thermal store distributing out to the skirting runs. Or you can plumb it all back to a manifold. So a huge number of installers that are out there doing underfloor heating use ThermaSkirt as a first floor solution. If that's the case, you can just plumb all the ThermaSkirt back to a manifold as you would normally. To go with these pipe layouts, we also have connection templates. So if you're wondering how to get the first fix in place, we've got templates that show how to do that from above, from below, from the side. And really, once you've done one, you've done them all, because the connection detail is the same for every variation. Electrically, it's wired in the exact same way as electric underfloor heating. So you'd have a thermostat that can communicate with the skirting wirelessly, or you can do a hardwired connection from a spur to a thermostat and from the thermostat to the skirting. As far as sizing is concerned, we have heat output tables, so you can calculate exactly how much heat you get per metre at the varying flow temperatures. And from that, you can determine how many metres you need to hit the heat losses. And that also comes with your flow rate information and your flow resistance data. So as far as the installers are concerned, let's get into that. I've sort of dealt primarily with three types of trades. The Luddite is the guy who does not want to do anything new. He's dyed in the wool. He knows how to do things his way, and that's it. There's probably not a Luddite on this call, because I don't know why a Luddite would join a live stream about skirting board heating. But the other two, the magician and the superfan, they're the guys who do a range of stuff, and it might be boilers and heat pumps and radiant electric heating and all sorts. Now the magician tends to use the product, the ThermaSkirt product, as a bit of a trick up their sleeve. If a customer comes to them and they've got a problem positioning a radiator, they don't know where to put it, they want underfloor heating but they can't have it for a certain reason, then the magician will whip out this product and suggest it to the customer. The superfan is the company that we're looking for. The superfan is the guy who wants to go on our website. They want to be on the map. They want our customers to come to them for a full whole house solution. So as it stands, we currently receive about 700 new ThermaSkirt inquiries per month. They are from domestic self-builders and renovators and home improvement, people doing home improvements. I've plotted 500 of them. There's about 1,500 active quotations in total, but the plotter puts 500 on, otherwise you just see a sea of red. What this map shows you is the sort of distribution of those quotations. You can see there's a pretty even demand in line with the population right across the UK. If you can see a red dot on that map, that means that there's an active quotation for ThermaSkirt today in your area, and we are looking for an installer to take that on. We, as Discreet Heat, currently do about 7% of the installs. 7% of the systems we sell, we go on to install. And we actually want to reduce that number. We want to hand more and more over to registered installers. Currently, 93% is installed by other people, not necessarily registered installers. But we'd like our own in-house installers to become training operatives and service engineers. Now, the killer blow is all of the other stuff that needs doing around it. So it's very rare that a customer of ours just wants a radiator to come out and a ThermaSkirt system to go in. They want boilers installing, heat pumps installing, first fix pipework alterations, kitchens, bathrooms and everything. They're normally looking at our product because they are doing a much wider project. And that's where the opportunity lies for the registered installer, because the customer will come to us because they're interested in our product, and we will advise them to get a full package from one of our registered fitters. And that might include lots of other things, not just the skirting heating. So here's how it works. The customer finds the installer through our website. We notify the installer there's been a new inquiry in their area, but we contact the customer basically just to broach the initial conversation with them and explain the likely costs behind the product, because we don't want the registered installers driving all over the place doing site visits for projects that are never going to come off. So we kind of give that initial vetting process to the customer and explain to them what the system entails before we then start coordinating. And then we effectively work as a trio between us, the registered installer and the customer to pull together a detailed design, a quotation on behalf of the installer, and the installer then just has to coordinate the dates and times. We provide room layout drawings. So this is an example of a typical 2-bed house. We'll show where the heated skirting is, where the dummy skirting is, how much heat you can expect to get from it, where the connections to central heating are. And so we provide all that as part of the technical pack. As far as training is concerned, there's obviously online training and additional technical information that's going to come out through our YouTube channel. This is going to sound really hacky now, but if you click the subscribe button, you will be notified when new videos are released. But we'll also be sending out to the Registered Installer Network webinars, additional webinars, stuff where we explain a bit more detail how all this stuff works. And then obviously your training never stops. As far as the practical element is concerned, we actually prefer to do that on site. We do have a training facility here, but the problem with doing it in a training area is that you're fitting the system in a very sterile environment where the pipe work's perfect, and the floor is perfect, and the walls are perfect, and that's not really reflective of the reality. So we actually prefer, when the registered installer's got their first job, we prefer to send out one of our installers and actually do the job with them on site. And obviously on an ongoing basis, if new projects come up that get more and more complicated, there's additional training and support available, and of course you can always come and see us here at the factory if you want to get hands-on with the product prior to actually installing any of it. So at the end of this live stream, I would like to invite everybody to click the link in the description below. I will also email the link out, and that's going to take you through to the registered installer registration, basically the registration page. So most of you will already be on our system anyway, but this registered installer is you effectively making it official and saying, I would like to join the network as a registered installer, and you put in the information that you want the customer to see, because some of you signed up with us with your personal email addresses and your personal phone numbers, and it may be that once you're actually on the website you want the customer to see your work email or your work phone number. So this is the opportunity to do that. It's also going to ask you to write a little bio. Don't write War and Peace, it really doesn't matter, but just a couple of sentences about the business and what you do, because that's going to help the customer understand what other services you can provide them with. And then at the bottom there's some certification. So are you gas safe, have you got NCS, are you electrically trained, and what other products do you fit? Do you fit radiators or underfloor heating, boilers and heat pumps and so on? So once you've submitted that and you're on the registered installers program, you actually then have your own installer login where you can see and edit all of your details, and you'll also have access to all of your quotations. So whether you bring a customer to us or we recommend a customer to you, you'll be able to see all of those quotations that are underneath your name. Now, the quoting system is actually really clever. This whole CRM is built by us. And if you, as a registered installer, want to make some improvements to that, that's fine. Feed it in and our IT team will pick it up. Now, the product pricing is not just made up with a finger in the air. Every single component and every single element of the system is individually priced. So as you saw that room layout design earlier, with all the red lines marked on, that is then reflected in this quotation. So total meters of skirting, number of corners, number of connection sets. And you can see on the left-hand side there, it gives you a total heat output, some flow resistant information, but also a install estimate. And the install estimate is really useful because it's going to tell you what we would charge the customer for that. And if you've never done installs of ThermaSkirt before, it's going to give you kind of like an indication of where you should be pitching it. Now from here, you can export or email these quotations directly to your customer if you wish. You don't need to, but you can export it as a PDF and send it straight on as a PDF. You can export your trade price, so all registered installers will get a preferential trade price, and you can export it as a retail price to send directly on to your customer. Now, when you fill in the registered installers form, all of that trade information, that commercially sensitive information will be included in the registered installers pack. So all that does now is just leave me to answer your questions. So, ready to answer your questions. I had a few texts through during that, so we'll have a quick look at a few of them. They've been forwarded on to me. Thanks very much to the IT guy for that. So the first one is, what are the trade terms? I knew that was going to be the first question. Obviously, this video is going to go out to everybody, so that is kind of commercially sensitive information. So if you would be so kind as to fill in the registered installer form, when we send out the registered installers pack, we will include all of that information like trade terms, how that works and everything else. Sorry to be a bit secretive about that, but I'm sure you understand. So the next is, how is it used on kitchen plinths? Well, normally the kitchen plinth goes on and the skirting is fitted onto the front of the kitchen plinths, and we actually colour match it to the kitchen plinth. So we've got customers all the time sending in little samples of their kitchen units and what have you. If it's from any of the big guys like Howden's or Symphony and so on, then we know what their colour ranges are anyway, and we have matches to that, albeit in small quantities. You do pay a little bit more to get it colour matched, but there's a number of kitchens out there that have had the skirting fitted in white, which matches like the quartz worktops and things, and that actually looks really smart as well. But in terms of how it's plumbed, it literally just plumbs straight onto some tails that are behind the plinths. I've got, where is the training happening? I did say in the video just earlier that the training happens on site normally. We do have a training room here. I'm sort of sat in half of it. We have a plant room set up through there with all the pipework exposed, so that all can be seen. But the best training is on site, I'll be honest, because we're on site with you at your customer's house, trying to overcome sort of any challenges that you're actually having live. Steve's also sent me a question saying, how is the wiring fitted in the electric version and how do the connections work? So on the back, this is a sample of the electric. On the back of the electric is a heating cable, and that heating cable there fits in the back of the profile. Now that wires into a PCB at the beginning of the run. So if you imagine, Steve, that you've got a 3 meter by 4 meter room, you might have 2 3 meter pieces of aluminium profile and a 4 meter piece there. They're all separate, but the cable is one continuous run. So that starts off where the connection's made, and then that runs all the way around the corners, and then you join each piece onto the end. So the way that that's terminated, because it's just a simple semiconductor, you chop the end of the skirting off and you put a rubber boot over the end. That's how you terminate that connection. I appreciate I didn't go into a huge amount of detail on the electric in this video because it is really, really simple, and it's normally the wet system that sort of blows people's minds. So I'll send out with the installer email tomorrow some of the fitting instructions for both the wet and the electric system. we've got, sorry I was late to the party, you may have gone over it, but I know first thing I'll be asked is how much does it cost to run electric? So the electric system is 1 for 1, so it's 1 kilowatt in and 1 kilowatt out. So in terms of running cost, if you run it for the same amount of time as a panel heater and it's sized the same, it will cost the same. What changes is how the room is heated. So if you're more comfortable at a lower temperature, your thermostat will turn off sooner, and therefore you haven't got to run it as long, plus the room will keep its heat for longer because it's radiant. So with electric, I'm normally pretty upfront with customers and say the running cost is, well, if it's 130 watts per meter for the electric, the running cost is 2 pence per meter per hour. That's at 16p a kilowatt hour. But if you want to watch back over it, if you are late to the party and you want to watch back over it, you can actually just drag the scroll bar all the way to the left and start from the beginning. And after this, I'm going to email everybody a link so they can watch it later. So thanks very much. And thanks, Kieran, for saying it looks like a great product. I agree. Someone's asked me, this is the question I was hoping for. I've got a project, how do I get a price? So how do you get a price? You send us a set of floor plans normally. Normally what happens is the installer goes out, they do a quick measure up and draw a room layout. Typically it looks like crayon on the back of a fag packet, but to be honest with you, that doesn't really matter. A lot of customers have already got estate agents plans or full scale floor plans if they're having an extension done. So really all we need to do is get a set of floor plans from the installer or some rough measurements from the installer, and we can cost it up from there. So if you didn't see it in the video earlier, you will see that on our quoting system, all of the rooms are broken down by wall length, how many corners and so on. So it is really basic information that we need to put the price together. So if you do have any projects, then send them in, we'll have a look at it. Quoting is free, the design is free, it's all there for you to use. So all it leaves me to say is, if you can click the link in the description below and put in your registered installer's details, we will be in touch. There are quotes on the system now ready to go. So I am very keen to sign up as many registered installers as possible. So thank you very much, everybody, and see you soon. Bye. Right, okay, I'm going to come back because you keep asking me questions. I can't get away from anything. I want to go home. You realise that. It's like 7:30 now. Guarantees, right? 10 years on the wet system is the manufacturer's warranty. So if you've got the wet system, it's 10 years. On the electric system, it's 5 years. So you'll find that the warranties are longer than any radiator you can find, that's for sure. When it comes to things like longevity of the system, we've got systems that have been out there for 15 years now and still running well. And someone said could work well with solar and my energy something. Yeah, I agree. We do quite a lot of small units on solar. So there's a developer that we work with who does like holiday accommodation. So they'll have solar with battery backup, and then they use the electric system because it responds so quickly to the demand. You can have all that energy stored in the battery, and then as and when you need it, it just fires in. Revive Exterior Solutions, think we need to watch from the start. Feel free to watch from the start. And thanks to Orange Energy for registering. We'll be doing with heat pumps. Perfect. Loads of our customers are looking for solutions on heat pumps, so that's absolutely ideal. So unless there's any questions that are going to pop up, I'm going to go home now. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye.